You are listening to What's Next? Conversations with Boomers, and I'm Barb Demaray, your host. Hey, Mela.
Hi.
So we are very close to the holiday season. We're recording this on December 13th, and the hype we're well into the holiday hype. And for a lot of people, this is not a happy time. It's a very stressful, very difficult, very complicated, etc., etc.
Yeah.
We had a fabulous conversation with what I would say now is our resident mental health counselor, Jackie Adams. Yeah. We've had her on a few times now, and she is great. So I just so enjoyed our conversation, and she had so many good tips. And, she deals with this in her office. So what do you think?
It definitely hit home.
It hit home, yeah.
Yeah. I liked when she started talking about, ways to get out of your head, because I'm someone who will ruminate. And when you live alone too, it's so easy to default in that headspace. I'm not proud of it, but it's not easy. But I've developed my own ways to not live in that negative mental space, like I'll go to the gym or I'll take the dogs out. But it's easier said than done, obviously, and you also mentioned that in your conversation, but I think trying to not be there the whole day or whatever, however long you can fight it, because I'm someone who will sit in my feelings and let it wash over me until I fall asleep. Yeah. But, but now I'm really I'm trying to, I'll work or something. I'll really keep myself busy. But there will be those pockets where and I feel like it's just louder during the holidays.
And you're not alone. You're not alone at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about many times, especially with Tim, awareness is the first step in healing from anything. Just being self-aware. Yeah. Here I go again. I'm doing it again. Okay. I need to make an effort to get out of this. What can I do? And she did give us some concrete tips.
Yes.
that were really good. But I emphasize, as you just said, some of these things are easier said than done, and it takes Herculean effort sometimes to get out of your head. Yeah.
And just like anything, it is practice. You do have to make an effort to like you said, recognize it and then make active efforts. It doesn't have to be a major grand thing that you do tomorrow, for example. It could be just one small thing today, and also to not be so hard on yourself. And I think that's probably one of the things that really draw people down that sinkhole too, is they're harder on themselves than they need to be.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. We do tend to, we create a story and we stick to it, and we have a narrative that most of the time doesn't work. We're way too hard on ourselves, and we have to learn sometimes to treat ourselves the way you would a best friend.
Yes. Yeah. Or be the parent that you wish you had.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're excited to have people listen to this, because I know they're going to enjoy it a lot. Yeah.
And it's helpful during this tough holiday season.
It is helpful. And I know there's lots of people, as I say, that share your situation for sure. So here is our conversation with Jackie Adams. Jackie, thank you so much for coming back. We appreciate this so much, and it is a very busy time of year. And I'm so grateful that you gave us this. I'm free on Saturday, the afternoon. So thank you.
You're welcome. I had a little window of time. That's good. It's working out.
Yeah, and we feel honored. So we are about to enter the holiday season, and for so many of us, it is a joyous, happy time. Family gets together, music, parties, etc., etc., etc. But that is not the case for everybody. And we all know, and it may be some of you, that Christmas time, holiday time is a very, very difficult time for many people and for a number of reasons. So I thought this would be a good topic for Jackie. She is a mental health therapist, and I'm certain deals with this. So, Jackie, have you had people in that go through depression, heartache, sadness over the holidays?
Yes, I mean, depression in general, so many people suffer from it anyway. And then in the holidays, because we're looking at a change of season, which is first off, now it's darker. And I know in BC, it's dark the majority of the day. Same thing here. I mean, in the States, it gets dark by like 5 o'clock, 5:30, which is unusual. And darkness aids depression. There's no doubt, right? So when it gets dark and it gets cold and some people embrace it and are really happy to just be home and, cuddle and be down and stay in their house because they don't have to go out and they don't feel that necessary. I have to be out because it's sunny and shiny and whatever, go to the beach. But yeah, for other people, especially during the holiday time, if they're alone, if they don't have much family, and from past experience, I deal a lot with people in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And the good news about that is they have meetings that often go on for 24 hours. So if you don't have anybody and you're in recovery, you have a place to go. Now, for people who are estranged from their families during the holidays or just don't have family, it's a different story. And it does create more depression and more sadness. So it happens to people in all walks of life with all different reasons.
So most of us have heard of SAD, seasonal affect disorder. Can you explain what that is?
Yes. And again, it's two different things we're looking at here. SAD happens regardless of the holidays, right? It has nothing to do with whether or not it's Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's. It doesn't matter, right? So as soon as it gets, what I alluded to earlier, cold, dark, and usually starts around the end of the fall season into the winter season and continues throughout the winter season until we start to change our clocks for many of us and get into warmer weather, more sunshine, those kinds of things. So people who suffer from this are usually between the age when it starts, 18 to 30.
Really?
The majority of people who have it are women. There are more women than men. Not surprising. I'm not sure. Again, a lot of these statistics come out of the fact that women report it more than men, right? I mean, it goes across the board with domestic violence and all kinds of other stats.
Everything.
So we don't know, right? But there's like about 5% of Americans, because that's the percentage I have, probably Canadians too, who suffer from SAD. Now, there are a higher percentage of people who have what we call the winter blues. So it's a little less, I would say, intense. Okay.
Mhm.
It's not so bad. And the thing is, once you understand that you suffer from this, you can prepare for it and you can do something about it. So, as a matter of fact, and maybe I hope my son doesn't listen to this, but he will. My kids all grew up in Florida. When my son went off to Boston to college, his first winter, he came home and he was ready to transfer, didn't know what to do. He was just not doing well. And I immediately thought, well, this is it. But, does he suffer from it now? No, he lives in Austin, Texas. And we implemented quite a few different things for him so that he wasn't really up in Boston for a long winter. I don't think he could live fully in the winter.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it happens.
Well, that would be a shock to your system. I mean, Florida is a very warm state, and Massachusetts is not.
And again, he's
And
18. He was 18.
yeah, that's a big adjustment. Okay, so for people with SAD,
Yeah.
seasonal affect disorder, how is it exacerbated over the holidays and all the hype around the holidays and I mean, everything, we're just bombarded. How does that affect people that already are down and despondent, whatever it is?
Yeah, and Barb, honestly, I am not so sure that there's a great connection between those two. I think people who have SAD, it's just there. Is it exacerbated during the holidays? Probably. I haven't seen a lot of that. I mean, I've seen kind of a level. If you have it, you do something about it now. Is it worse for people who are lonely? Absolutely. You're lonely, you're sad, you don't have anybody to really talk to, spend time with. That's where, it gets really more difficult. And people with SAD, I mean, at the extreme do have, suicidal thoughts, and they feel hopeless and worthless and all the things that go along with really depression. Right. But this is having depression only during a certain period of the year, right? A certain time of the year. And that's where it's different. But it's a depressive disorder. And it comes along with all the things that depression comes along with. However, in depression, which I find this interesting, when people are depressed, as far as, and I'm just going to pick this out of one of the symptoms, weight. When people are depressed, we can see them on either side of the weight spectrum. Either they're gaining or they're losing, right? They're either not eating at all or they're eating a lot. When you see people with SAD, one of the symptoms is that they overeat. When you see people with depression, many of the times they also have some insomnia, whereas SAD people are constantly sleeping. So there's a connection, and there's some similarities and there's some differences. So that's why SAD is a little bit more specific in other ways.
Okay, let's talk about, just as I said in the beginning, we are in a season that has an enormous amount of expectations. You're
Yes.
supposed to be with your family, you're supposed to be happy, and not everybody is in the ideal situation. There are many, many, many people who don't have family. There are many, many people who don't have money. There are many, many people who are estranged. They have family, but they're estranged from their family. There are many people who don't have a lot of friends. So there's a whole variety of circumstances around this time of year that are
Yes.
that are not positive. And that is just underscored at a time when we're supposed to be with family and family's supposed to be happy. There's people who absolutely do not like this season. So how do you cope? I mean, just pick one of those, Jackie, and give us some guidelines around dealing with that.
Yes. All of that is difficult. There's no doubt about it, right? So when I talk to people that are going to be alone on a holiday, miss their families or estranged from their families, don't like to be involved with holidays at all, right? So where I focus and where I kind of drive them a little bit is to figure out what it is, again, that makes you happy. What brings you joy? You could ignore what's going on around you. And if you're alone, right, for instance, you can create an environment that's good for you. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but I'll give you a great example. I have a girlfriend who's alone always on New Year's. Okay. And she's funny. She said, I've learned to accept and enjoy this. She doesn't have any of her kids near her. She doesn't have anybody near her. And yes, there are friends, but it's not her thing, really. So she's like, I just make myself a really nice dinner and I sit in front of the television and I watch the ball drop and I do those things and I go to bed. Creating what you want for you. other people who are alone, my suggestion to them is like, okay, you're alone, but what are, your strengths? Going and volunteering, giving out meals to homeless people, doing something other than even thinking about it. Because there are people worse off than you are in many situations, right? We don't have to give, we don't have to spend money, but giving of yourself. So rather than sort of wallowing in your aloneness, you find ways to create environments that you're comfortable in, that you feel good about without comparing. And you did use this word, Barb, and it's true that you should be happy, that you should enjoy, that you should be with family. No, no, not everybody has it. Not everybody wants it, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when we think about how do we cope, that's within yourself in many, many ways. And I do go through this with many of my clients, right, who have those issues. I also go through it with clients that have too much family and prefer not to. So
Well, that's another scenario.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
How do I deal with this? What do I do? And again, I can go back to alcoholics, right? They often have to choose not to be around their families because they're all drinkers and they know they're in recovery and they don't want to deal with that. Again, choices that you make doing for yourself what's going to make you feel good without comparing what everyone else out there is doing.
I like the idea of, going to serve Christmas dinner in a Salvation Army or whatever it is, and to volunteer. And I know people that have done that. And gosh, it was so great. And the people were so appreciative, and it allowed me to kind of get out of myself. Yeah. Now, what about family estrangements? I mean, I have that situation in my own family, not the family that I raised, but my family of origin, and it's difficult. It's the reality of it hits home, and we were a family that were always together over Christmas, and now we're not, and it's difficult.
Well, again, it's change, right? We have to sort of embrace change no matter how it comes. Like you just being estranged from them. I'm estranged from a couple of people in my family too. But the point is, I don't even live near them anymore. So things have really changed. I mean, I don't even live near all my kids, sadly, but we make it work. And you just make things work the way you work. Just because it's a holiday doesn't mean suddenly our relationship's going to change. Changing a relationship takes work, right? And we've gone down that road in other podcasts. But in all honesty, it's the acceptance. Here you are, and that used to be, and it isn't anymore. So now this is what is.
Yeah, sometimes it means creating new traditions, just different traditions, and life changes, and that's just a fact. So, Jackie, what about people who are newly divorced, newly separated, and suddenly they're not with their spouse over Christmas? And that
Yep.
must have been difficult for you in the early years.
I want to say it wasn't because I had such support of my kids. Like even my very first Christmas when I moved back here to New Jersey, they were all here. They were all with me. And I really didn't suffer too much from that. Yeah, we talked about it because we were big Christmas people and still are in a way, but it was different, but it seemed to be okay. And I take that back. My first Christmas when I was divorced, I was still in Florida and my kids, again, were all with me. It was hard. It was different,
Mhm.
but you rely on who you can. And of course, I lived there for so many years. I had a lot of friends. And so it was different and it was still okay. It was still okay.
That's good, because I'm guessing that it's not okay for a lot of people. You're still grieving that loss, and you're still grieving the shock of it, and you're still grieving the death of the dream that you had. And through that, you have to create happiness, especially when we've got kids.
Yes. Yes. And I think people who are divorced with younger children, because I've heard the scenarios and I'm there, in the mix of it with actually some family members too. They seem to have worked it out, especially because their kids are little and they want to kind of make things as somewhat normal as they can. So co-parenting is important and they do it. My children were all adults, so it was very different.
Yeah.
But
I know in my marriage, my husband was divorced. And his children lived with us and we kind of raised them together, but the Christmases were shared, the birthdays, holidays were shared. And so, there's always those arrangements to work out and sometimes they're amicable, but I imagine a lot of times they're not.
not. But still, people get used to, and especially kids, what we call the new normal. And they grow up like that and they get used to it. And it's amazing. They do okay. They're not happy about it, about the situation, but they make the best of it when they are at either parent's home. They
I
do.
guess it is the new normal. It's so prevalent now and certainly, they've all got friends whose parents were also
But
divorced.
I really didn't mean that was the new normal across the board. I meant that it within the family unit that they're
Right.
part
I
of,
hear what
that becomes the new normal for that family. Yeah, more like
right. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. And that's something that we all just have to accept. There's always going to be a new normal with change. Now, what about people that are living in poverty or suddenly they've lost their job? Those people, they probably just want to have Christmas over as quickly as possible.
Yeah, perhaps. But again, they make the best of what they have. I have a client who lost his job recently. And, it's a struggle just figuring it out and doing things a little differently than you did the first time or the last time. Yeah, I think people manage. I really, really do. But I would like to go back, Barb, to kind of the seasonal depression piece, because
Yeah.
I think people need to know that there's lots of things that help seasonal depression. And again, I've seen the results when you work at it, right? Things like light therapy, they're called light boxes, white light boxes, and you have it on for 20 minutes a day, normally in the morning, makes a difference. I had a very young man, he was maybe 19, was really struggling, was diligent about his light box, came in and said it made the biggest difference in his life. So it's things like light boxes, vitamin D, because that's the deficiency, antidepressants if they're needed, talk therapy because it works. You don't have to be alone in any of this. It's the same thing with the holidays, right? So find yourself a therapist. See what there are options. See what we can do for you.
A light box. Okay, is
Yeah.
that somebody? Where do you purchase something like that?
Amazon. Some of them are very
Amazon.
pretty. Some of them aren't so pretty. They're called white light therapy. And it even comes with instructions, tells you what to do, tells you how to use it. And it's basically creating light into your system. Because what happens is it sparks more of your serotonin, which is your happy hormone. So
Feel good hormone.
Yeah, and you're going to feel better. It's like an SSRI, right? That's what they do. They're serotonin uptake medications that way, and they work. But yeah, when you're lacking vitamin D, that really creates depression as well. It really does. So vitamin D, what does it come from? Sunlight and taking supplements. So you need to do that. But the white light therapy has been really effective, very effective.
That's interesting. So people listening to this might be thinking, I wonder how much that costs.
Not much. Not much. I think some of the white lights are maybe $25, $35. And some of them are pretty. Some of them aren't real, like they're pretty. I bought one specifically to give it a shot. I didn't really need it, but I have it and I like it. I haven't used it much this year yet, but I do put it on every so often. I mean, it does make a difference. Gives you that.
That's really good advice, Jackie. And interesting about the vitamin D. I know most people are deficient in vitamin D, and I take a lot of vitamin D and have for years, just because I just read so much about it and how people are deficient in it and how much we need it and so on.
Yes. So my mother, who lived in Florida, and I would laugh every single day, no matter what, as long as the sun was shining, she went outside her apartment sat on the bench in the sunshine for 15 minutes. She timed herself. 15 minutes a day. I need my vitamin D. I was like, okay.
Good for her. Yeah.
So
Well, that's
good.
another thing that's often suggested. Get some sunlight every day.
If
Yeah.
it's sunny, depends on where you're living.
Right, right. Okay, so the light box. So give us some other suggestions.
Well, like I said, taking more vitamin D,
Yeah.
seeing a therapist, and deciding. I mean, it's not a life sentence to take an antidepressant. People think, oh my, I'm going to go on it. I'm going to have all these side effects. If I have side effects, maybe I'll never get off of it. That's not true. That is not true. People find benefits from antidepressants. A lot of them are just very mild, but they make a difference. And so those are the kinds of things, really, those are the 4 or 5 things that we suggest for depression in general, right? Cognitive therapy, the light box is really for seasonal depression. And vitamin D, that's what it's all about, you know? And then, of course, when you go to cognitive therapy, you're talking about changing your thoughts, right? Because if you keep feeding negatively into your brain, you're going to get negativity out. So you want to put positive in and get positive out and challenge it. People sometimes, and they'll sit in my office. I've heard it last week at least 5 times. I know my thoughts are irrational. I don't know what to do about them. Okay, well, now you recognize them. What are we going to do? So those are the things that you have to really be aware of yourself.
Right. Learn to redirect. And that's not easy. Oh, I know. I tend to ruminate, and I have to consciously shift my thinking, or, start reading a book or put on some music, or, do something to
Yes.
get out of this headspace.
Yes. And the holidays, when we talk about that too and getting out of that headspace, there's a lot of things around. If you don't like the holidays, period, then don't invest in them. And I don't mean monetarily. I just mean don't invest in them. Don't buy into the whole thing. Carry on your life the way you can, even though I know it's all around you and you'll see things. But basically, you don't have to really engage if you don't want to.
I'm really glad you said that. I mean, give people permission to say, yeah, you can opt out. There's no law. It's just, I mean, when you're looking at a screen and you're bombarded with all this stuff, I mean, a lot of it is, it's for somebody to make some money. It's products, et cetera, et cetera. There's just a lot of pressure at this time of year. You can opt out, and I just don't want to be part of it. That you don't feel the pressure to give in to all of it.
But I think what we miss is that much of the holidays have to do with religion and faith. And not that everybody does it, but what we say is those people who feel alone, that's where people sometimes really find their refuge. Churches, temples, synagogues, wherever you find it. And even if you're alone, that may be your answer to feeling better about being home.
Good point, Jackie. Yeah. I mean, a church is always going to be welcoming. Yeah.
Again, I mean, I can only encourage people to get out of their heads. If you're feeling so badly about everything about the holidays, about what's happening around you, you have to say to yourself, okay, what do I do for me? You have to make yourself the focus of what is going to work for you, what makes you feel good, whether it's writing or listening to music or reading or watching some movies or doing something a little bit different or cooking or engaging in a hobby, helping other people, visiting a nursing home, singing in a choir. I mean, there's so much out there. It's just a matter of when you're in yourself, right? And you really are struggling, it's hard to get out there. And I get that. But for some people who really just have things like the winter blues, I mean, there's more people who have that. It's mild version of sad, but it's a push, and it's a push, and I get it. And some days it might work, and other days it might not work at all. And then if you need to give yourself permission to spend the day in bed, go ahead. And I think a lot of it is about, and you call it pressure. I just think the expectations that we put on ourselves are what creates the issue and the problems. So if your expectations are my best friend goes with her family and buys all these gifts and does this and does that for the holidays, and I don't do any of that, so I must be a bad person. That's not how this works. As soon as we start
Exactly.
comparing, we're in trouble.
Yeah. And sadly, a lot of us do. So, Jackie, let's go back to the whole we need to get out of our head. And as any of us know well, it's easier said than done to get out of your head. What would be step one if we put it into, here's 5 steps to getting out of your head?
Well, step one is not ruminating on those negative thoughts. And again, that's tough. So, and if you are somebody who absolutely knows that you're thinking negatively, all this negative self talk over and over again is really what's creating how you're feeling, which is sad and down. And then you just keep doing it over and over again. Therapy will teach you to challenge those thoughts. And again, it's hard for you to do it on your own, but you can learn to do it, right? So, how do we do that? We start to implement other focuses, right? People start to meditate, listen to guided meditations, go into yoga classes. Calming your mind is really how it begins. It's to calm the mind and to try your best to think more positively about whatever you're thinking about negatively. Okay. The negative part of I'm sitting here home alone. Nobody loves me. No, I don't have any friends. I don't do this. I don't do that. All those, that's how we start to think. And then you try and get to the reality of it. Do I really have a friend? Probably. If I went to a yoga class, I might meet somebody. If I go and do something. So it starts to change your reality, which is usually negative and quite honestly, not usually true, right? There's little other things. Writing, gratefulness, calling somebody. I don't care who you call somebody and you talk to them. And it's really a stretch to say that there's somebody who sits home and has absolutely no connection with anybody at all. That's a stretch because I don't believe it, frankly. Everybody has at least one person in their life,
Right.
whether it's somebody like in a congregation, whether it's a healthcare provider, whether it's a priest, a rabbi, somebody, a clergy person, anybody at all, there's always somebody.
There is. And also, you touched on gratitude. And I think that's really powerful, is to be able to say, okay, for the next 5 minutes, let me just focus on things that I am grateful for and write them down. I mean, even that I have a roof over my head, I have food to eat, I'm healthy. I have one friend, I have 2 friends. I have a job. That certainly does help most people to shift their focus and focus on what they have versus what they don't have. And even if you have to make yourself do it, it does make you, I mean, scientifically,
Yeah.
it's been proven that it does make you feel better.
It changes in your brain, actually. It will change your brain chemistry by just being positive all the time. You'll see that it starts to develop and you don't have as many negative thoughts. It's been proven.
Isn't that interesting?
Mhm.
Yeah. I kept journals for years and years and years. And for many years, I literally would write down what I did every day. And at the end of that, I'd write what I wanted to say. What am I grateful for today? And I could always come up with at least 10 things. I mean, some of the simplest thing. I had a great phone call with such and such today. I had a good workout. And after a long, long time of doing this and you read back on all those things, it just feels great.
Yes. Yes. The other thing is, and I say this somewhat loosely, but I really mean it, get a pet. Get a
Oh,
pet.
yeah.
If you're so lonely and you can manage whatever, which way, get a pet, get a dog, get a cat, get a bird, get something that you have to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great therapy for many, many reasons. Yeah. That's a really good suggestion.
And the other
Yeah.
thing is really, if you have the ability, go get like a small little part-time job. Do something that you can focus outside of yourself. And then when you're in by yourself, learn to do these other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 It's using your imagination. And how can I serve somebody else right now?
Stepping outside. All you have to do is go outside. Another proven fact. As soon as you hit the ground with your feet in any weather, you will feel better just by being and inhaling the air around you.
Fresh air. Yeah, that's a good tip. Something that just came into my head as we were talking is, certainly in the United States and in Canada as well, but not as pronounced. There is so much division in your country around politics. What do you do about family gatherings when you've got a strong red person and a strong blue person and the conversations can get heated? Do you set down ground rules or what
You don't have those conversations. I know for a fact that certain people in my family are very different than I am, and I will never, ever engage in that conversation, ever. And so you have to set your own boundaries and no.
Well, that's the smart thing to do. But I'm sure in some families, in some settings, groupings, people just insist on getting into it. What do you say? Sorry, this gathering today is going to be non-political. What do you say?
I mean, I think a lot of families will go into situations and they already know that politics is not going to be something we talk about.
So, Jackie, we're coming close to the end. Are there any final thoughts around this topic?
Yes. My final thought would be that you have to think about yourself and what your needs are, what your boundaries are, what your desires are, and how you want to handle situations in general, whether it's the holidays or it isn't the holidays. How do you handle you through gratefulness, interacting with other people or not? But it's really about yourself and your own mental health and well-being.
Perfect way to end this. It's been so valuable, Jackie, really. I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to get a lot out of this. So from us at What's Next? Conversations with Boomers, we want to wish you and your lovely family a wonderful holiday season. And I know we'll have you back in 2026. Gosh. Yeah, we'll have you back for sure. Okay, one more time for how people can reach you.
Jackie at JackieAdamsCounseling.com. You can send an email to that address without any problems.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.